Thanks everyone for attending. My name is Jeremy Combs. I'm a program development specialist with student services at the district office. I'm here today with my colleague Scott Kaiser, also a program specialist with student services, and Joanna Ramirez, who is the program coordinator for Lucha Tobacco Health Education Council, as well as Ariana Ponce. I just wanted to thank you again for being here. As Alberto mentioned, we had our Red Ribbon Week kickoff October 25th. And if you were there and are here, thanks for being here. If this is your first time at one of our workshops, we're glad you're with us today, and hope you get some valuable information from our workshop today and then workshops that we have in the future. Next slide, please. So our workshop today is really focused around signs and symptoms and having the conversation with your students, with your children around tobacco, vaping, and other drugs. Last year when we had our workshop series, initially we did touch on this, and there was a request for more information. So Health Education Council has put together a great series around having the conversation, and you're going to have the opportunity to do some role playing and have some fun and really interact and practice some of those, some of just the different techniques that they're going to be talking about today. But before we get started with this, I wanted to talk a little bit about the workshops that we have upcoming. As Mr. Soto mentioned, we have one next month. It's presented by Omni Youth Programs entitled Marijuana 101. It's really talking about just today's marijuana opposed to how marijuana was in the 90s and even going back to the 60s. It's just the potency level is increased dramatically. People are using it different ways, and we know that can have unique effects with teens, especially as they're developing. So we're going to learn more information about the harms and effects associated with that, as well as gaining resources and just learning how to practice the peer pressure and how to really educate your children and yourself about the risk involved. And once again, that's going to be held Thursday, December 2nd from 4 to 5. The registration links is there as well. And I know Alberto does a great job with sending information out through family and community engagement. So I'm sure you'll be seeing that in upcoming workshop series information. And I believe it might be being shared in the chat, but I'm not sure about that. We'll have resources that we share out at the conclusion of the presentation as well. And real quick, before we get with the presentation, I did want to talk about a few things regarding, like Alberto mentioned. So for being a participant today, family and community engagement is going to be providing tote bags to families that came today with school supplies for students, as well as at the end of our presentation, we're going to be having just a quick minute or two, about 5 questions, just talking about, or just having feedback on different information that was shared today. And if you complete the survey, you'll be entered to win a $25 Starbucks gift card, which we have multiple winners, so it's not just one chance. There's many chances to win. So please make sure you stay to the end and take that survey so you can be entered to win our $25 Starbucks gift card. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce Joanna Ramirez from Health Education Council, who will be speaking today regarding signs, symptoms, and starting the conversation.
Thank you, Jeremy. So yes, for today, we will be talking about the signs, symptoms, and starting that conversation and identifying e-cigarette use in youth and starting a discussion. The next slide. So a little bit about the Health Education Council, which is our organization, and our program, Lucha Tobacco. Our program meets community identified needs and are designed to address the underlying drivers of health. And our program, the Lucha Tobacco program, stands for Latinos Unidos contra el Hábito y Adicción al Tabaco. And we offer different workshops, trainings, assistance for school staff and for parent and community groups. And for today's presentation, we're going to go over some e-cigarette. We're going to be reviewing e-cigarettes and what are they, what is the attraction, and what are the health effects, as well as the signs and symptoms of use, and starting a conversation with youth. So to start off, we wanted to do a quick chat question with you all about what are some harmful consequences related to e-cigarettes. So if you can just answer in the chat, and we'll go through those answers through the presentation. So I just want to get a little bit information of what you guys remember from last week's presentation. And then we can go to the next slide. So a quick review on e-cigarettes from last week's workshop. We know that e-cigarettes are made up of 60 plus chemical compounds, and the harmful consequences of e-cigarette use are lung damage, it slows down the brain development, and the nicotine addiction. And vaping puts nicotine into the body, and nicotine is highly addictive, and it can slow that brain development in teens, and it also affects their memory, their concentration, learning, self-control, their attention, and their mood. And it also increases the risk of other types of addiction later in life. And e-cigarettes also irritate the lungs, and they may cause serious lung damage and even death in some cases. And they can lead to smoking cigarettes and other forms of tobacco use. And as you can see from these images, just a quick review of what vaping is. And vaping is the act of inhaling and exhaling aerosol from an e-cigarette or similar device. And what is an e-cigarette? E-cigarettes or vapes come in many shapes and sizes, and some look like pens or USB devices. And what is a vape pod? So a vape pod clicks to the e-cigarette, delivering the substance. And lastly, other drugs can be vaped through these products, and e-cigarettes and vaporizers can be used to vape other substances such as marijuana. And as you can also see from that image, there is the evolution of the e-cigarette, how it started off, and the most common, how they look like now. And we'll go through in the next slide too. So the different types of e-cigarettes, so you can see there's a lot of different images on here, and most have a battery and a heating element, and they have a place to hold a liquid. And some e-cigarettes are made to look like regular cigarettes, cigars, or pipes, and others resemble pens or USB sticks and other everyday items. And like we mentioned, they can be used to deliver marijuana and other drugs. So as you can see, they did start off, there are various different generations of these products. And the first one, in that first generation, you can see there's the disposable e-cigarette, and the one that most closely resembles a traditional cigarette. And then there's the e-pipe and the e-cigar. And next is that second generation, which has the box mods and the vape pen. And those have the large size tank devices, which are refillable, and you can fill them with the e-liquid. And then there's the vape pen, which is the smaller version of those box mods. And last, you have that current generation of products, which is the rechargeable e-cigarette. And those are considered the vape pods, the ones that, are smaller and skinnier, and they look more like, pens or USB devices. And then you can see there's also the images of the common chargers for e-cigarettes. They look like, everyday phone chargers. And then we also have there's some images as well of the rechargeable e-cigarettes and disposable ones and these are actual products out in the market. Yeah, next slide. So hooking youth with flavors. So what is that attraction to e-cigarettes? So tobacco companies know that flavors attract youth, and they exploit this by selling over 15,000 types of flavors for e-cigarettes. And 80% of tobacco users start before age 18, and over half started with menthol cigarettes, since this is the most popular and common flavor that they are sold in. And youth cite flavors as the top reason for using e-cigarettes, and 97% of youth who vape use flavored products. And as you can see from this image, these are a lot of the various flavors that these products come in. And this image is actually has the most recent, flavors that are available in the market. So as you can see, they it's not just traditional flavors. They have, cool mint, guava ice, lychee ice. So they're very innovative, and they have a lot of different flavors out there in the market. Okay, so our next chat question for you guys is, what are some signs of a nicotine addiction? And this is just something that, if you guys know, or if you guys have experienced it or seen, if you guys can answer in the chat. Okay, next slide. And then here are some signs to look out for nicotine addiction. So there are psychological signals as well as physical signals. And so for the psychological signals, a few of them is the use of drugs or alcohol as a way to forget problems or to relax, as well as, withdrawal or keeping secrets from family and friends. They can also have, a loss of interest in activities that used to be important to them. They may also be having problems with schoolwork, like their grades are slipping or they're missing more school, as well as, changes in friendships or, they're not hanging out with the people that they used to hang out with or that you knew that they were friends with, as well as spending a lot of time figuring out how to get those drugs or even stealing or selling belongings so that they can buy the drugs as well. And then a lot of, you can see them having like changes in their mood swings. They have, more anxiety. They're depressed or angrier. And some physical signs to look for. You could look for changes in your kids' behaviors, that they might start cutting back on caffeine if they do drink caffeine, or they may be getting frequent nosebleeds, as well as changes in their sleeping habits. They may be feeling shaky or sick when they are trying to, and that's because they may be wanting to stop. And these are like the side effects of stopping using these products, as well as needing to take more of the substance to get the same effect, and changes in their eating habits, including weight loss or gain. And then some other signs to look for in their environment or around the house. You can, in their room, if you see like some eyedroppers, and those are used to cover up, the redness and also the multiple chargers. Since most of these devices, the rechargeable ones, they need to be charged to be used again, as well as, the vape pens, they can look like markers or USB flash drives. And they also have, they sell disposable flavor pods. So you want to look for discarded pods in the trash. And then since vape pods, they do come in lots of flavors, you might want to take note of any new sweet scents in their room or on their clothes. Okay, so next, so before starting that conversation with your kids, you want to be sure you are prepared and you have all of the knowledge necessary to provide that correct information to them. So you want to make sure that you get educated, on the topic and on all of the different products that are out there. Next, you want to know the signs and symptoms of the nicotine addiction and use. And next, you want to appeal to their good judgment. Your kid makes smart decisions every day, and resisting the temptation to vape can be one of them. So you want to compliment them on their good judgment, and you want to remind them that they are an independent thinker who doesn't have to be influenced by peer pressure, and tell them that that you're proud of them and of their courage and of their principles. And next, you want to find the right moment. So you want to choose the right place and time to have that conversation. So by choosing a time when your kid won't feel rushed and a place where they feel relaxed and safe, like if you're riding in the car, if you're sitting at the dinner table, and by choosing a place you guys both feel comfortable, you'll both be more inclined to open up. And next, you want to ask open-ended questions. So instead of asking, yes or no questions, you want to ask those open-ended questions that can encourage their participation. And if you're generally curious, your kid will be less likely to get defensive. Okay, and then some guided tips on how to go about the conversation with your kids. We did go through some of these last week, but quickly, you want to start by asking them what they know about smoking and vaping and health. And you want to fill in those gaps, and you want to tell them, next you want to tell them some of those tobacco and e-cigarette industry marketing myths. Next, you want to remind them that all tobacco products, even the smokeless ones, they contain nicotine and they can cause addiction. And next, you want to share with them those resources that you have, and then resources that you've found for them. That way they can do their own research. And last, you want to explain to them how it's much easier to say no in the first place than to quit later. And then here's some tips for conversation starters. So we know that kids are less likely to smoke if they know that you disapprove of it. So they also respond if you share your own struggles with tobacco. So if you've never smoked, you want to tell them about friends or family who regret starting in the first place, or who may have died from smoking related disease. And the important thing is to talk with your children every chance you get, and to get help right away if your child is using tobacco. So for these tips, you can reduce your child's use by helping him or her be ready to say no. And these questions can be asked when you or someone that is smoking, when you see someone that is smoking, or if you're passing by a tobacco retailer, or if you see a commercial or an ad for tobacco or smoking. And by not passing up these educational opportunities, you can help them be ready to say no. So this is a good tip, if you're struggling on how to initiate that conversation, because starting it can be difficult, but these are great opportunities to not make it seem so confrontational for them. And this will help you understand what they know and what you have left to educate them on. Okay, so here's some 5 suggested conversation openers, and you want to remember, to not, blow up on them if they share things you didn't expect to hear. You want to listen to their answers and ask more questions and keep those lines of communication open. So some questions to start off with. So one, you could ask them, are a lot of kids vaping at your school? Are your friends vaping? And for this, you want to make sure that you don't react, you just listen. And this is a good starter question instead of directly asking them if they are smoking or vaping, or if they're using those products. That way they don't feel like you're confronting them. And next, you could ask them, what do they think about vaping? And this is good to find out what they know about it or their thoughts on it. And you may hear them say that, it's harmless, or it's just flavored water vapor. And then you can, let them know that it's not, and that you're going to share more information that you found out next. And next, you could tell them, you could be more specific about certain products like the Juul pods or other different vaping devices. And then by this way, they'll know, that you've done your research, that you know what you're talking about, and that you've been studying. And you could also start with talking about those different harmful ingredients that are in the products. And then you can also talk about the different marketing tactics, those different commercials, as well as the things that you've seen in social media. And next, you could ask them, do you know how vaping can damage your health? And you can make sure to tell them why that matters. This is important because, they're young and they may not think that their health is that important, but, you want to stress that it is, especially because they are young. So you could start by telling them, that vaping is smoking, and that one Juul pod can contain as much nicotine as a pack of cigarettes. And also talking about the nicotine factor and the nicotine addiction, that, once they start vaping, that nicotine addiction will follow, and that it may be harder for them to quit once they start. And then also talking to them about how, it'll affect their lungs later on if they continue using these products. And then lastly, you can ask them, do you know the other ways vaping affects your life? And, you want to make sure to tell them, that they should care again about themselves and their life. And that, over time, the chemicals in e-cigarettes will affect their attention span and their memory and their lungs. And again, talking to them about that addiction aspect, that, once they're addicted, it'll be very hard for them to stop, or to even, think of anything else except, using those products. And then lastly, you want to, like we talked about, appeal to their good judgment, and tell them, that they're smarter about their health than previous generations were. They have a lot more access to, information, and to make those better choices for themselves, and that vaping goes against all of the other healthy choices that they're already making. Okay, so next we're going to go into our breakout rooms where we're going to go through an example of how to have that conversation with your kids. And we'll be showing you guys the fotonovela that we have, and it has a sequence of storytelling and uses pictures and guided dialogue. So it goes through a lot of those different conversation starters that we talked about already. And this will also be a safe space for you guys to share your experiences with us and with other parents. And, you can also ask us questions and the other parents in the group as well for tips.
Before we're going to get back into this too, I know that Mr. Kaiser and I were kind of talking about possibly kind of creating a parent network group to kind of continue these conversations, because I know maybe a workshop a month doesn't really cut it, or even every other month, for that matter. So Ms. Michelle and others who are interested in kind of having that like support, and we can do this via Zoom and continue that type of network. I can try to contact those that are interested, and we could send out information, obviously, to those in the group today to possibly talk about getting something like that together, because I think it's a great idea. And I think there's, unfortunately, we only have an hour today, but there's a lot more questions than probably we're able to get through as far as with just the time that we're allotted. And we're going to share some resources at the district level that we offer as far as like within school now. And then, as I mentioned, some other resources that are more geared towards quitting and cessation. But like I said, just based on what we're hearing today, we want to be able to give you more opportunities to voice and share out, because we know that it's power in numbers, and being able to share experiences is important. So I just want to put that out there. So we'll Ms. Michelle and others who would be interested, like I'd love to get in contact with you all, and maybe we can work something out where we can start doing this more regularly. Awesome. Okay. And I guess with that, Ms. Ramirez, you want to go ahead and continue?
Yes, so I'll finish this off with saying, once is not enough. So you want to continue this conversation and consider it an ongoing conversation. So after you have that talk with them, here are some 6 tips for you after you finish that talk. So first off, you want to say thank you to them. You want to let your child know that you appreciate them for listening, for their honesty, and for continuing to make the right decisions. And ending the conversation on a note of trust will make it easier for them to talk to you later on when they have questions or if they need advice. And second, you want to help your child manage stress. So unfortunately, stress is universal. It applies to everyone, and it can be experienced at a young age as well. So you want to talk to your kid about any larger concerns or pressures that they may be feeling, and you want to make sure that they have healthy outlets for relief. And third, you want to help your child manage peer pressure. So one of the largest motivating factors of youth vaping is influence from friends or classmates. So you want to consider rehearsing or role-playing to give your kid the social tools to refuse tobacco products, and you want to offer them some quick facts or an anecdote that they may feel comfortable sharing with their friends. And next, you want to follow up. So even if everything goes well, and over time there will be new curiosities, and there's going to be new products out in the market, and there's still continuing research on these products as well. So you want to make sure to leave those lines of communication open with them. And fact sharing is a great way to reintroduce the conversation topic. And next, you want to stay up to date. So, vaping is an ever evolving issue, and, there's new products coming out, there's new information coming out. So you want to keep your child protected by staying informed and knowing, the latest updates. And lastly, you want to share this information, and like in this group, there are other parents that are struggling with these same issues and how to address them. So you want to share this information and these resources that you've learned today with them. Yes. And then I think next is just those resources, for you and for your kids. And we also have I think we will be sharing that fotonovela with you guys, as well as other resources and PDFs with you guys. And then that's just my contact information. If you guys have any questions or want to reach out to me, feel free to email me, or you could also visit our website for more information.
Thanks, Joanna. And thank you, Ariana, as well. A lot of great content. There's a lot of good stuff in the breakout room. So hopefully some of the questions will be answered now. Jeremy's going to kind of take it over and talk about some of our district services, because obviously that's kind of the elephant in the room. How are we supporting our youth at the school sites? And Miss Michelle brought up a good question about that. So Jeremy and I will go ahead and touch on that right now. Jeremy, go ahead and take it over.
Great. Yeah, and before that, it looks like Miss Michelle just shared in the chat some of those different resources she was referring to. So make sure that if you were asking questions about those resources that are local in our community, and they're on Facebook as well, it looks like. So please make sure you check those out. So as Scott mentioned, we do have a host of services that we offer. So the reason we're able to do these presentations and offer the services, we are recipients of the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Grant, which allows us to provide prevention curriculum, intervention, as well as cessation, and add this family and community engagement component, as well as the youth development aspect. So with prevention, we focus on 6th through 12th grade, as a lot of curriculum is geared towards. For 6th grade, we have a curriculum called Catch, which really focuses more on tobacco and vaping. In 7th and 8th, we have Project Alert, which goes more in detail and other different types of drugs, aside just tobacco, vaping, alcohol, and shares other information about drugs, and just being able to make students aware of the harms and effects associated with all of those. And then as of this year, we started doing the Stanford Prevention Toolkit in 9th grade, which is through Stanford Medicine, really focusing on tobacco, vaping, as we've heard from families, and just as we've seen trends in our district too. Smoking traditional cigarettes is obviously in the decrease, but vaping has been on the increase for the last, I'd say, 3 years. So we're looking, to really bring light to that, as you all have mentioned too, and then find ways to help students, learn more about the harms and effects associated. We have 2 programs, so called Club Live, which is for our middle school programs, and Friday Night Live, which are for our high school programs. They're programs that we partner with Sacramento County Office of Education, and they're really student-led programs that focus on alcohol and drug prevention activities. So they have weekly meetings with a school representative and an advisor from the school site. But really, the students are able to do community outreach, peer education activities, and talk about issues around prevention that are important to them and their community. So we did a lot of activities around prevention and outreach and informational stuff around in Red Ribbon Week. We continue to do different things. There's different events that happen throughout the year. The Great American Smokeout, which I believe is in November, it's this month, as well as other activities throughout the year. They also do like environmental projects and looking in communities that distribute these different products, and just looking at the amount of those different types of corner stores and things like that, and what they're selling in the area, and how they place products and different things like that. So really trying to bring awareness to students about how these companies and how these businesses are potentially contributing to the problem. And then I'm gonna there's a question. Go ahead. See a hand raised.
Hi, yes. I noticed that you said that there's a lot of services for these things, and they're great. But I did have a question regarding COVID right now, because I noticed that the attendance is kind of deflating for my son. Like he wears the mask, he's kindergarten, so he's just now starting, but at the same time, he just had issues. I just noticed sneezing, coughing with the mask on. Is there any engagements on those type of topics as well, or?
So specific to just around COVID and other are you looking for alternatives, or just safety, health and safety? What are you looking specifically for?
Yeah, for health and safety on campus, because just having the mask on and just overall in general, I just noticed like the attendance records and a lot of other parents at the site, like I did speak with, and we were just kind of going over some things, and we noticed like attendance for our kids have been kind of like low. I mean, just, for the couple of days when they should have been there, the whole time, but just sneezing, coughing, and other things like that have taken place. And it's kind of concerning on, um, you know, like, how are we going to carry out the rest of the year if this is like accumulating for attendance, like for, my kindergartner, but I just did have like concerns on that type of thing right now that's happening, and other parents as well.
So Roberta, do you know of any maybe resources out there as far as trainings or just informational sessions at school sites that might be offered around that?
What I would say is that in this case, we're not really sure what direction, obviously with the pandemic and with COVID-19 and the vaccination for currently right now for ages 12 and up, and the potential of it being opening for ages 5 to 11. I know that today there is a community conversation that's being hosted by the Syria Health Foundation, Kaiser, and the county. And what I'll do, I'm going to look up for that information and drop it in the chat. That's one way as far as regarding the conversation regarding with mask wearing and how do we go in supporting students to, to use the mask or to, protect themselves. That's something that obviously we're going along the way and figuring things out as to proceed. Yeah, but that's what I would say for the moment.
Great, thank you. Scott, do you want to go ahead and touch on some of the intervention programs? I know that was a question with some of our parents regarding to how we support students in schools.
Absolutely. So hearing some of the parents in the breakout room, they did have concerns that there was some substance use, or whether it's vaping or whether it's marijuana or nicotine. And myself and Jeremy both, we provide intervention services to our youth. So this program is called Brief Intervention Teen Intervene. And let's say, for example, if your child or a student was to be caught on campus with, alcohol, tobacco, or drugs, we can utilize this program, which includes 3 sessions of intervention instead of them being suspended. And Jeremy and I are total advocates of providing that in lieu of suspension. We try to work with the administrators. If it's their first or second time, let's try and have them or provide them with education instead of just suspending them, because a lot of times suspension isn't helpful. It's just kind of, throwing the student to the side and not helping the student out with a problem or an issue. So we offer that intervention, and administrators, counselors, social workers, health assistants, nurses, they can refer students over to us, and we begin the referral process. And we work with the youth 2 days, and then the 3rd day we include the parent. So some of you said, I heard some of the parents talk about, it's very tough to get that conversation started. My child does not want to talk to me. But in that 3rd session, we open that discussion forum up for the families to kind of support, and we teach the parents on how to start the conversation, expectations, and kind of focus on the whatever usage is going on. So we include that parent in on that process as well. And then we have other resources that we can offer. We have a mental health concierge that we can provide. It's called Care Solace, to where if there are mental health concerns, anxiety, depression, we can link you guys up with that concierge. And what happens is they work with you to determine what is the best resource, and it's also dependent on income-based sliding scale. So they work with your needs. Sometimes it can be a free service. Sometimes it can be a very, very low cost service for those supports as well. And so this is kind of the referral process for intervention and how it gets started. Obviously, it comes back to myself and Jeremy. We check on the discipline dashboard every day to find out if there are students that do need support, and we try to contact the parent and say, hey, this is what's going on. We see this infraction occurred. Would you like us to provide intervention? And we have been slammed. There have been a ton of cases. Parents, we're up to about 100 infractions district wide, which is a lot. We've only been in school for a few months, but that's got to be attributed to Obviously, students being during the pandemic being isolated. There's a lot of things that's going on, a lot of mental health that's going on. So obviously, we see a trend going upward, unfortunately. But we're there. We're going to be there to provide services for your children, for any student that is experiencing these things. We have some cessation services that go along with the intervention. If students have nicotine addiction, we can provide these services to the students. It's free. We link the parents up to support them in that as well. But they can use a text app. They can use a call-in app. It is totally anonymous, and they can help students as well following our intervention. Another one we have is called, and that was called California Kick It. This one is called Why Vape, and it kind of like, it's like a coaching type app as well. It can be virtual, it could be via text, it could be via phone, and they kind of help to coach the students on how to quit and kind of do the similar things that myself and Jeremy do with intervention, but kind of in a more intense detail. And really that kind of brings us to the end with kind of our services, what we offer, obviously going over the conversation starters. So a lot of good information. Thank you so much, presenters. I know we have some questions. We want to open up that time for that. And also, if you want to reach out to us that your child needs support with XYZ, alcohol, tobacco, or drugs, we would love to provide intervention for that, for your child or your student. You can reach us there. Those are our contacts right there. And Miss Michelle, I see you have a hand raised. Please go for it.
I always have questions, but
We love it.
I just wanted to also say thank you for even having this panel, this discussion, because this has been something that should have been talked about a long time ago. And I'm glad that it's here now. And but there's one thing that we have to remember. Like some of these things, some of these places, it says that if they have to want to do it, the teenager has to, and if he doesn't, then so I'm in the middle, because I'm a parent, like saying, okay, he's gonna do it, but I don't care what he says, he's going to get into this program or whatever the case may be. So what if you have a teenager that's not ready or is not willing? How does a parent facilitate that?
So, I would say, like, as we mentioned before too, utilize resources, as like Scott and I mentioned, like, if there's a conversation that can be had with a counselor at a school site, maybe because sometimes it's just having that other voice, to kind of talk to and open up to. I would say that, as a parent, you feel like, you should have like the easiest route to getting in, with your child. But I had the same experience. I feel like sometimes I just like have to have, kind of defer, because, when it's your own child, it's sometimes it's difficult for them to have those conversations with you, because maybe they feel the extra pressure. They don't want to disappoint you, so I would say definitely, utilizing the resources that you have, as far as with the school, with obviously organizations that you're already a part of. So, there's things out there.
And I just want to tell,
I have a question. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I just want to tell the parents out there, the saying, it takes a village. It truly takes a village. So those parents out there, you guys are not alone. It's just that you have to really tap in. And if you can't tap in, have someone else tap in, because like I said, something is going on for our children to be doing those things. And I just, if it wasn't, I thank the community members and the people that I network with all the time, because, I am a parent that is involved. So don't turn the other cheek, parent. That's another thing. Parents have to be involved. And so I encourage these parents, call the school. I'm a parent that calls the school almost every other day, if not every day. And I say, I need to make sure that my son is at school, make sure that his body is in class, not just, okay, he's in, they telling me he's in attendance. I make sure that he's in class.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Michelle. That's great advice. As a parent, definitely, I agree, to staying connected and never get, like you said, always being involved is huge. So I know there's a couple other questions. For the people that need to leave, I want to respect their time. And you're welcome to stay. We will be here for the next few minutes to answer questions, and you have our
I
contact.
have one question. I wanna do for, hello?
Yes.
I wanna do for my daughter, like, have any, medical issue, like, you have any program for that?
For a medical issue.
Yeah,
Okay. Is that something you want to maybe talk about? You want to talk about that after, just with us, because we can stay on afterwards, or we can go into more now. What would you prefer?
after.
Okay, sure. So,
So,
Roberto, go ahead.
yes, so I could go over the poll questions. So for our families, one of the ways as far as assessing whether, participating, these are the poll questions that you have here. There's 5. You will be getting a notification on your screen. And this is
Mhm.
one of the ways that we are taking attendance and as far as the raffle. And I think, Jeremy, you could probably go a little bit about the raffle itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who weren't here right at the beginning, we are able to raffle off a few Starbucks gift cards, $25 gift cards for those who participate in the poll. So please take a few seconds here, answer these 5 questions, just to kind of give us some feedback about how the presentation went. We're always looking to try to improve and provide information that's relevant to you. In addition, it doesn't hurt your chances to get in some Starbucks. So that's always a plus as well. And we'll be doing raffles and just different things like that, at all of our presentations. I'm not sure if I can promise school supplies at every presentation, but I know we have different things we can provide. We can provide resources around just information that you might need about specific, like drugs, alcohol, tobacco, any informational stuff. We have pamphlets, we have different things you can either pick up at the district office or we can send. So resources are there and available.